Okay, so if you've been wondering why we have to deal with arrays of characters instead of string objects like we can in Java, well, in C++, you have the option. You can do both. Or what's preferred probably is just the string class itself, which is very similar to Java. For one thing, it's different in that it's spelled with a lowercase s. So, and you have to actually pound include the string include file, and it is part of the standard namespace, std namespace. So what can you do with the string object? Pretty much most of the things that you can use with the string class in Java, except it's a little bit different. So if you want to declare a few variables, here's how you do it. Say string s1, s2, s3, then you can do things like this. S3 is equal to s1 plus s2. So you can tell from here that the plus operator is overloaded in the string class to mean concatenation, just like it is in Java. In Java, we can't do overloads ourselves, but in C++ you can. So Java has a few overloads, and this is one of them. String class in string objects, you can concatenate, and you can do the same thing in C++. Okay, and another thing you can do is it's overloaded the assignment operator, so that if you have, in this case, this is just an array of characters or a C-style string. The assignment operator is overloaded to accept a C-style string that'll go into its left-hand side, which is the first operand, which can be a string. Okay, so the assignment operator essentially does automatic type conversion to string type. So let's take a few examples. Now there's a couple of ways of initializing strings. So here's some of them. You can say string and then name of the variable, and then in parentheses you can put in the kind of string that you want. Okay, so let's try some of these examples. So for example, you say, well, before you can do this, you need string, pound include string, and now you can say string s1. You can just not initialize it. You can say string s2 space string s3 is equal to, you can use any of these, whoops, I don't know what happened there, but you can use any of these ways of initializing strings. Okay. Now we can print out s1 is empty. You might say, well, s1 is null. No, it isn't null. Actually, remember, when you say class name and then name of variable, you're actually calling the default constructor. So this is just an empty string. So you don't see anything printed out. So I can say s2. You should see 4. And then you can cascade s3 and end line. So as you can guess, the insertion operator is overloaded to accept string objects. So let's try this. It should just print out for lecture 10 strings and then 4 and 7. Let's compile it and run it. Okay, hope that makes sense. S1 is just the empty string. Now you can also do, the nice thing about strings is that you can do the same things that we've been using in Java. S1 is equal to S2 plus S3. Okay, and let's just print out S1. Oops, I have a program running. Let's kill it. Let's compile this and run this, and we can see that this worked. This S1 is equal to S2 plus S3 gave us for score and 7. Okay. Another thing we can do is, remember we used the cin.getLine. With strings, you can use the same kind of function. It's slightly different. You use the standalone function. You say getLine, and you say cin. You can use this function. It's a standalone function. You say getLine from cin something into a string. For example, let's just get it into S3. And we'll print out S3. So you can use cin.getLine for C-style strings, but also in addition you can also try the standalone function getLine, which takes from cin, or you can use a file too. So that's what we'll do in the future. Is rather than using cin, we'll use a file. All right, this compiled. It ran, it printed out this S1, which is for score and 7. Now it's waiting for us to print out a line. I'll print out and it just prints it out. So getLine worked, and probably you want to try some more detailed examples on your own. Okay, so there's a start with the string object. So you can use cin to read stuff into you can read a single string separated by the usual thing that is white space characters, like in, for example, space. And let's just do that real quick too. We used getLine, but you can also use the normal things. So let's do cin, read in a single string into, not a whole line, a single string into S2, and then cout S2, and then you'll put in an end line to make it clear that we are, and let's just dump out all of this stuff we don't need. We don't need S1 either. S2 and S3 we have initialized, but then we'll read in something else into S2, print it out, and on a new line we will get the next thing that is on the console. Okay? Let's compile it. Hope it compiles. Yes. Let's run this. Alright, so now it's waiting for us to print out something. So we can put in one thing. So let's say 4. Right, and it just prints it out. And now it's waiting for us to enter in a whole line of stuff. Score. I messed up the... So here's the problem. It looks like our program finished, and before we thought it would finish. So what happened was we typed in 4 and it put that into S2, and then it didn't, we hit enter, and that was taken as the whole line that went into S3, and S3 was actually printed out. It was just that it had nothing in it. So this is a common pitfall when you write C++ programs. So let's take another look at this. So I'm not going to change anything. And this is a very common problem that you run into in C++, especially when you have strings and you use input output and from a file, it becomes even more complicated. So let's say I type in 4 space score. This time around I get the space and the score that went into S3 because I got a whole S2 only got the 4. When it saw the space, it stopped reading into S2. Okay, so that got into S2, and then I printed it out, and then I get a whole line starting with the space, and then score also went into S3. So that's why you see the space over here. This is a common pitfall, and I think this is discussed in the book. Let's take a look at the notes. I think there is a when you mix input methods, that is when you use cin and getLine, which is exactly what we did. So we ran into the exact same thing that the book actually highlights. So take a look at this. In this case, they're reading in an int, and if the user enters 42, hits return, and then types in some new line, like which is what I was going to do, you run into the same problem. The 42 goes into n, and it stops at the new line character. And then when you do a get line, only the new line goes into this line. Okay, so when you do cin colon greater n, it skipped all of the leading white space, leaving just the new line character on the stream for get line to take and put into line. So all of this other stuff that you enter doesn't go anywhere. Common pitfall, so try not to run into that same trap as I just did just a few minutes ago. Okay. And also notice that if you type in multiple things on the same line, then things are actually different. So this is, let me run this again. I'm going to type in 4 on the first line, and then I'm going to hit enter, but then the program is already done. Notice that there's no red square anymore. That's because it got an empty line into S3, printed it out, and thought it was done. Okay, so common pitfall in C++. Let me go back a little bit and see if there's something else I need to look at. We did this, no problems. We can get a complete line using getLine, no problem. Or we can specify the delimiter. So you can say that instead of having white space be delimiting different things, you can say that you can have commas. Commas would make sense. Question mark, maybe not so much. So commas would make sense. So this would enable you to read a comma-separated value file, CSV files. Okay. So another thing to keep in mind is that this get line allows you to cascade. So this is just like reading in cin greater s1, and this thing returns cin. So now I can cascade and read the next thing from cin into s2. Okay, watch out for this pitfall. There's a whole bunch of string functions. There are over 100 members of the standard string class. So some standard things like, well, length, you can probably guess what that means. That's just, Java has exactly the same thing, string.length. So the string class has a length method in Java, and so does the string class in C++. You can get a specific character at a position starting at 0. So you can get the character at position 0, 1, there's no negative locations. There's a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to go over all of them. Okay. You can do concatenation and assignment. String add, string substitute, just like Java. Java has a very similar thing. Let me see if I missed string compare. Nope. You can do string find. That's just like in Java. I forgot what the name is in Java. I think it's something like search, I think. String search, is string insert, remove, and look for equality. For strings you can do this, but you remember you don't want to do it for arrays. For C-style strings, that is old arrays of character, you don't want to use equal. The operators are overloaded for string objects, however. And the one last thing I want you to know is that you can do automatic type conversion. You can assign, for example, a C-style string into a string object, but you cannot do the opposite. So you cannot assign a string object to a C-style string. All right.